almost. Google is doing a countdown of some sort.
By the way, you're broadcasting that in real time right now?
Yeah, it is getting broadcast. I thought of inviting some people, but I decided against it just because you know, I'm not sure if it'll actually like contribute. You can share the link to the forum if you want to. But I think I've got like, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so you can share the link to the forum. It's actually, I don't know if you want to do that.
Yeah, I think you please go ahead. I'm not hiding my identity, so yeah. I hope I will, I will be able to explain about NuBits, but I'll do my best.
And I'm sure you seem like the great guy for the job here. Hold on a second. Let me quickly like find out where to post this link. Here we go. Okay, so new topic.
Sure.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay. I'm just posting this.
By the way, it's the first time for me to to have a video interview, so
okay.
I'm a little bit nervous, but it's a great opportunity.
I'm sure you'll be fine. No, I definitely think there's not a lot of information about the. Hold on, quickly throw it on the new Reddit as well. So if anybody wants to join us at the moment, they're more than welcome. Okay, hold on. Sorry, give me 1 second to share this.
By the way, I am half French, half Japanese, so please excuse my accent, in my grammar. I'm not native speaker in English, so
Well, neither am I. So so
really?
if I forget words and stuff, yeah, no, I'm Afrikaans. So
okay.
Where did this link go to? Hold on, where did it disappear? Okay, there we go. All right, now I'm actually like Afrikaans, so I'm from South Africa. So English is my second language as well, which is my excuse for why I make grammatical mistakes on Reddit. That and I type on a phone. Really, like I think the way to sound like somebody who has English as a second language is to type on your phone. I think it'll make anybody sound extremely stupid. All right, well I think we can kick off basically. So yeah, why don't you introduce yourself, Pascal?
Yes, so my name is Pascal Hamonic. I'm 35 years old, and right now I'm living in Japan. I've been living here for more than 10 years now. Basically, I run a small recruitment agency in Tokyo. I'm specialized in software engineers. But I have a background in computer science and also electrical engineering. I studied both university and in France and Japan. And recently we released service recruiting service for specialized for the blockchain industry in Japan, because it's picking up and more people are excited about that. And actually Japan has a great Bitcoin exchanges with a lot of funding, so people are very excited. So we'd like to contribute to this industry.
Okay, and so you specialize specifically then in basically in recruitment for blockchain technologies for companies.
Yeah, recently, yes, we released a service dedicated to this industry in Japan. Yeah, because we believe that it will become very big.
Okay, well, take a moment and self-promote that a little bit. Sell that for us a bit. What services do you guys then offer for?
Just like recruitment. It means we are asked by clients to look for certain type of people, especially engineers, and we introduce them. And if we are successful, we get a fee. So it's very basic business model, but very exciting to do. We've been doing recruiting in Japan for like 9 years, so we are very used to that, to this industry.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
we started with the engineers, like IT engineers, web engineers, but recently we focused on blockchain.
Okay. Okay. And tell me something. How did you like? What was your introduction into all things Bitcoin and blockchain and cryptocurrency? How did you get involved and hear about it originally?
Right. We started to be really interested in that back in September 2013. You know, in 2013, you know, the Bitcoin prices, you know, has really increased. So it was very remarkable. So I got interested in that. But what really, you know, got me interested is the fact that, you know, we could create a decentralized currency and ultimately a decentralized, you know, financial system. Because you know, I always wondered why, you know, banking industry had so much power, you know, and I always wondered why people couldn't, you know, didn't have the right basically to issue their own currencies, you know, and cryptocurrency, you know, the blockchain, the Satoshi, you know, what Satoshi came up with, basically gave us the ability to create our own currencies, you know. So I thought it was
Okay.
very powerful, and I believe that you know, people should have the right to create their own currency and you know, manage that.
Okay. Okay. So you basically got involved on the price spikes with Bitcoin, obviously at the end of 2013. You know, I've always thought that you know, the interesting thing about the price spikes, despite normally everyone starts going, oh, no, the price doesn't matter. They get very philosophical. The price doesn't matter. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, it's like a massive candle, if I can put it that way, and it attracts a lot of attention, you know, to
Exactly.
the thing. And it, you know, and I think the other thing is also, it's sort of like, I think it establishes a bunch of like believers around it every time one of these bubbles actually like kicks off, which is, I think, a positive process in the long run. I mean, in the short run, it gets very scammy and we all get very euphoric and start saying very stupid things on Reddit. But I definitely think overall it's a pretty interesting sort of like a jump on stuff. So obviously I have you here to talk about like the new system or like NuBits and new shares. What is the correct term, by the way, for like for the NuBit system? Is it like the new system? Is it new? Is it what is the correct word?
You call it, you know, the pronunciation? You're asking about the pronunciation?
Yeah, well, what do you guys call it? You call it NuBits? Do you call it new shares? Do you call it new?
Oh yeah, good question. Good question. Yeah, yeah. Basically, NuBits are the products of this decentralized autonomous organization or corporation that is new. New is the DAC, and shareholders of this DAC are called. I mean, they hold their own new shares, so they're called new shareholders. And the main products of the DAC is the currency called NuBits. But yes, in terms of marketing, you know, we call it NuBits. It's, I mean, when I talk about that to my friends or my connections, I say that I'm involved with NuBits because this is the so far is the terminology that you know, is the most remarkable, you know, the most easily remembered. So you know, I'm using NuBits.
Okay. All right. So okay. We'll for the purposes of the interview, we'll stick to NuBits then.
Sure.
Okay. And tell me something like so. I mean, yeah. So just quickly, like if you had to like if you've listed now, obviously you know the capacity to make your own money and that banks don't have that much power and that kind of a thing. What would you say is like what would you say some of the other benefits of Bitcoin? You know that you like, and some of the things that you maybe see as problems. You know, which then lead into you know how NuBits came to be.
Okay. Yeah. So what I really like about Newbie is the fact that you know, anybody can be shareholders of this bank and can vote for any policies or any motions.
Mm-hmm.
That's very powerful. I think, you know, as you know, the central banks of countries, except maybe very few ones, are controlled by a handful of people that really don't know the identity precisely. So is very it's in the dark. So and so they basically you can view that as a situation in which your humanity is controlled by those bankers. So it's not healthy at all, So in NuBits, okay, you don't know the identity because people are most people are anonymous, but as you know, the mechanism is the voting mechanism is in the blockchain, so it's not, and nobody can compromise that. So you can have a lot of confidence in that.
Okay, well, I think let's take a step back quickly. Just explain to me, like, as if I've never heard of it before, what are NuBits and, what are they? Why should I be interested?
NuBits are stable cryptocurrencies that are pegged to fiat money or any kind of stable instrument. But right now it's pegged to the dollar, US dollar. And you can, if you have a wallet, you can send from one wallet to another with freely anytime, anywhere in the globe for very low fee. So basically, it gives you the benefits of Bitcoin with the stability. So I think this is we can sum it up like this.
Okay, so in other words, what you're saying is like we have certain qualities in Bitcoins, like, they're pseudonymous. So we don't really know whose money is moving around. We sort of like have to do a lot of additional tracking to figure out who this person is. NuBits has that quality. So in other words, we don't necessarily know whose money is moving around. But in addition to having pseudonymity and having uncensorability, which is another major Bitcoin feature, which is, nobody can really, there's no cost of entry really. There's a fee transaction, which is again like the client decides what the fee is going to be. But in addition to those things, basically, that NuBits is essentially pegged to another currency or to another commodity. Then, in the case of NuBits, which I believe is the only one that's operational at the moment, a NuBit is linked to the value of $1 US. All right. So just quickly, how much does a NuBit fluctuate from the value of the real dollar?
Since inception in September 2014, the peg has really become very, very precise. I mean, very tightly. You could have maybe sometimes, depending on the spikes in Bitcoin price, you could have sometimes like 1 bit equals to 1.02 US dollar, something like this. But it was very seldom. Most of the time it was. I mean, for probably 99% of the time it was $1. So it's very, very close.
Okay, well, it's quite fascinating that it could match for you. So you say that the biggest deviation you guys have seen since the peg launched has been like 2% at the outset.
Yeah, something like this. Yeah.
Okay. And tell me something like how. Okay, so explain to us the process. How is it possible? That this thing, which is obviously not a dollar. I mean, you guys, I'm correct in saying that there's nobody who holds reserves for NuBits.
There are some reserves actually. Right now, the reserves are around exactly 15% of the NuBits in circulation. But those reserves are held in a decentralized fashion.
Okay, so in other words, there are some decentralized pockets of people who have committed in some fashion to holding dollars so that they can redeem NuBits for actual dollars.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah. It comes from the proceeds of the sales of the NuBits. Yes.
Okay. So can you explain to me? Can you basically explain to me how the peg works? I mean, let's take it from I know nothing about how the peg works, and we've got to explain this to to your basic like 20+ professional. How do you maintain $1?
Oh, yeah, the peg is maintained by basically maintaining big walls, big cells and buy walls, and in the exchange that accept NuBits, so that if someone wants to sell one NuBit for more than $1, he wouldn't be, or she wouldn't be able to find sellers, because there would be always someone that would be willing to buy $1. So.
Okay, so I mean, again, let's explain, like, for the sake of people who maybe have no idea what a sell and a buy wall is. How are prices determined for commodities typically?
Basically, if you go to, for example, the main exchange right now that accept NuBits, or handle NuBits, it's called Poloniex. You will find a very big wall, a very big order of NuBits, sells NuBits, and a very big order in the buy side as well. So if someone wants to sell one NuBit for the equivalent in Bitcoin, he would always be able to find a buyer.
Okay, well, let me do a quick screen share here, and then all right, and I can just show people this. Present everyone. Hold on a second. All right, can you see this? This is the price chart in Bitcoins for a NuBit. Can you see it on your side?
No.
Hold on a second.
Okay, got it, yeah.
Okay, all right, there's just a bit of lag. Unfortunately, I don't have that nice Japanese internet over here. All right, okay, so here basically we have here we have the price chart for a NuBit. Now that doesn't look stable, but this is actually the instability points, correct? This is as the Bitcoin price fluctuates. This is like an inverse Bitcoin. Right, so if we go down a bit, all right, just for the sake of people who don't understand how these things work, prices are pretty much determined by buyers and sellers. So some people hold the security and they sell. They then basically put up a offer to sell the security, which Poloniex actually lists quite nicely for us here. And other people who hold fiat, they put up some buy orders, and they put up the they basically put up offers to buy on the other side. All right, so we'll see here. Can you see the buy wall there?
It's very difficult to see it on my. I can't see the exact figure, but
okay, all right. So basically, just for the sake of people who'll be watching this, so basically here we see this massive trench here around what is currently 0.00. I think it's 629, which is effectively $1 worth of Bitcoin. All right, and so the NuBit system effectively works by making sure that there are people on both sides of the buy and the sell. All right, okay, so now we've explained that to folks. Let's quickly stop that. All right, so can you explain to us how that happens? How is it basically that buy wall actually, like the buy and the sell walls, keep moving, specifically to $1? What mechanisms are built in?
Yeah, so there is a thing called NuBot, which is a trading bot, software bot that keep tracks of the price of NuBits in terms of Bitcoin, and will shift automatically the walls depending on the fluctuation that you have in Bitcoin price.
Okay, so in other words, there's a trading bot that automatically does that. Okay, but I mean, to get those things there, you obviously need a lot of money. So how is that money injected into the system?
To get the developer to develop the thing.
Yeah, so how is it that who's actually on the buy and the sell side of that, and how did they get money to make the buy and the sell side? Why isn't it just a free floating thing?
Yeah, so basically the walls are maintained by liquidity providers that are incentivized to do the job. Yeah, so right now most of the liquidity is maintained by pools. Before it was individual liquidity provider that will get money from Nu to maintain the peg. Now it's a pool, so you can participate into the pool, and the pool will manage the money in a decentralized fashion or not, depending on the type of pool. We have two types of pools: a managed pool and ALP, which is autonomous liquidity liquid providing pool. So
okay.
So yeah.
Okay, so in other words, like but basically, like Bitcoin has mining pools, you guys have liquidity pools to effectively. Well, okay, obviously, we'll get to the mining of the thing in a bit, basically. But I mean, obviously, you guys, you have people who, like, let's say, for instance, I have $1 million, right? I don't have $1 million, but let's assume that I had $1 million, right?
Sure.
So, and I wanted to make a little bit of an interest on this. So, so what would I do with my $1 million? Like, explain that to me. If I wanted to provide liquidity, what would I get out of it?
Yeah, if you're willing to take some risk, for a certain turn, then you will be, let's say, you will put this $1 million in one of the pools, and you will get some reward for this risk. But so depending on the pool that you participate into, you would get between let's say 5 and 10% a month. But it's not for sure, because it depends on the volatility of Bitcoin. So you really, if you really want to make sure that you will get some reward, you will have to hedge the liquidity, the Bitcoin price. In my case, I once participated into a pool, and it was positive for me, but it was like maybe 2% instead of the expected 7%, because of the volatility of Bitcoin.
2% over what period?
Yeah, for 1 month. In my case, it's just my my own experience. But
okay, well, that's still an incredible return.
Yeah, but it could be much better for people that are able to hedge at the same time. And if you really want to have, if you're willing to take more risk, then you would get maybe 10%, depending on the pool. So there is a managed pool called NuLagoon, and inside you have 3 possibilities depending on your risk profile. I mean, the risk that you're willing to take. So you can get like 10% or 7% or maybe something like 2%, depending on the risk.
Okay, so NuLagoon is basically one of these automated pools.
No, it's actually a managed pool. So basically, you will entrust your money to the pool provider, and so you will basically give the money, and he will manage that. And automatic liquidity provider pool, you don't need to entrust anything. You will run the bot yourself, but you will get the reward from the pool.
Okay. So basically, so that's one of the ways that people do that thing. So to recap, basically, is if I had this $1 million, I would essentially just walk me through that process. So if I had $1 million, okay, you say that on the one hand, I can just go to one of these managed pools, so there's no need for the new shareholders to vote on anything. I can just do business with what do you call it, Lagoon?
NuLagoon, yeah. So let's say that you might want to entrust this $1 million to NuLagoon, so you will send this $1 million to NuLagoon, and every week you will get a reward from that. And I think every week you will be able also to withdraw this money, but you have to entrust, so it could be risky. On the other hand, you can run the bot yourself, so you just need to send this $1 million to the exchange itself, to your account, and then connect this account to the pool, which would verify the fact that you basically contributed to the peg every let's say every second. You will there is a mechanism that to verify that.
Okay, and then tell me something else. Basically, what are the roles of the new shareholders, right? Because I understand that there are some other ways that that they can vote for. I believe you call them endowments, basically, where they create NuBits from pretty much nothing, and they then give them to people who actually have who have some sort of a plan to expand NuBits. Like, if I understand that correctly, like let's say for instance somebody said, okay, well I want to run a managed Google AdWords campaign. you know, and they say, listen, I want $5,000 to run this thing, and this is what I'm going to do, and these are the audits I'm going to get in. Is that typically the type of thing that that those endowments would get paid out for?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we as a, you basically you can we could vote for anything, anything that can be described by a text piece of text, and then you will get a hash of that text, and you will put the hash inside the client. And so anything, yeah. But you would have to convince shareholders for that, you know. So it could be very tough depending on your reputation or the plan, you know. But right now, you know, you can vote for, so you can vote for any kind of motion, you can vote for transaction fee, you can vote for the parking rates, and you can vote also for how many NuBits you want to issue at a particular address, and you can vote for new shares, new issuance as well.
Okay, so people can vote for the new issuance of not only NuBits but of shares as well.
Yeah, it was added a few months ago, but not at the beginning. Yes.
Okay, all right. So at the beginning, that element of things did not exist. Okay, and tell me something else. Like what? Okay, so the one mechanism by which this peg is maintained is by liquidity pools. So in other words, if I have a lot of money, I can I can participate in the way we just described. Okay, so another way that at least on the supply side, more money can come in is by let's say, argument's sake, like we said, now I want to run an ad campaign to make people more aware of NuBits, argument's sake, or I want to write an iOS wallet or something to that effect that doesn't exist yet in the ecosystem, that that people can then effectively, that the new shareholders can then vote, they can, and then NuBits are issued on that side, and that's how supply comes in. As I understand it, I mean, obviously on the demand side, how do we, I know you guys have basically have a thing where you vote on interest. Can you explain the interest mechanism for me, please?
Yeah, interest is it's the parking rates, right? So I think you must be talking about the parking rates, right? So yeah, so in terms of decrease of the demand, so we would need to basically park to make people park their NuBits for a while, so that we could replenish the buy walls, basically.
Okay, so okay, so the parking process is effectively like, let's say I have no interest in NuBits really, but then I see, hey, wait a minute, if I buy NuBits and I park them, I can get 20% a year interest, basically, or whatever the case may be, right? So,
sure.
So then obviously that's some demand that would then be created, because then I'd go, okay, well, I have some Bitcoins, they seem to be declining in value, or they seem to be flat, or whatever the case may be. I've got this price volatility risk. How about I just take my Bitcoin, I transfer it to dollars, and I go park that. At least I now know I'll have X amount of NuBits at the end of the day. Okay, so that's kind of like the process then. So in other words, if what happens is if the basically if the demand wall, if you see that that's dropping, then you guys can vote to increase the rates for parking, and then basically you'd have this interest from people who want to gain interest, which would push that wall back up. Is that about correct?
Sorry. Yeah, can you say it again? Sorry, I didn't catch the last sentence because.
Okay. Well, basically, what I'm just saying is that obviously, okay, so we have our buy wall and our sell wall, and the thing is, effectively, when we see that the demand is dropping, right? When the new shareholders see that, okay, wait a minute, there don't seem to be as many buyers anymore as there was previously.
Sure.
They can vote on parking rates, which then creates interest from people because they're seeking interest on their money. And then what would happen is, like, people would convert their Bitcoins to NuBits, they would park the NuBits, basically, right? So that takes those NuBits out of circulation for a while and creates a temporary spike in the demand side. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can see that as creating demand, or as you said, taking out of circulation NuBits, so that we need to. We will need to basically provide liquidity to less NuBits, so
Okay, and tell me something else, right? So on the, I mean, yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I think that's a very brilliant idea, but on the other hand, I mean, I see the concern here that what might end up happening basically is that how do you guys manage the fact a whole bunch of people get very interested in NuBits, right? So they start to build NuBits, they start to acquire NuBits, they start to get a whole bunch of things. And then for whatever reason, there is an outflow of this, right? So people want their money, they want their money in gold, they want to like go spend it, they want to do whatever needs to be done. But now you have all these people who have gained interest from these loans basically, and they need to get paid out. You know, so obviously they start eating into the supply wall again. Let me just quickly, oh, sorry, they start eating into the demand wall again because obviously they're providing supply to that wall. How is that different, like from a Ponzi scheme where the argument is that you know, we basically pay out current investors, we pay out previous investors with the funds of current investors. How do you guys manage that situation? I know that's not the only mechanism you have, like we earlier, but how is that mitigated, if at all?
Yeah, I mean, but first of all, right now the parking rates are zero, so you wouldn't be able to gain any interest on your money because the buy side liquidity and the sell side liquidity are balanced, so there's no problem in this regard. But there's also so some people make this argument that that it could be like a Ponzi scheme, but we also added a mechanism to burn NuBits, so that we can really destroy NuBits out of like very quickly. I mean, immediately. So I don't think this Ponzi scheme argument is valid now.
Okay. All right. So in other words, you say on the one hand that at least for the time being, there is no, how can I say? I mean, there is no even entry scheme for the Ponzi element, if I can put it like that. Basically, there's no way of parking. So, so I mean, the system is in a state of equal moment. All right. So that's the one element. Tell me about how you burn NuBits, right? I mean, if I'm a NuBit holder and sorry, I mean, as we started this, these guys started construction on the outside. I mean, it's how life
okay,
works.
No problem. By the way,
okay.
your pic is, I mean, your video has frozen, so.
Oh, has it frozen? Okay, hold on.
Yeah, I can see only your static face.
Okay, well, maybe I'm just not very expressive.
Okay, oh yeah, but yeah, it is lasting for like 1 minute, so
Oh, okay.
But anyway,
well, all right. Okay. Well, let's. Yeah, we can give it a quick second, see if it comes back. All right. But just so to get back to the question, basically.
Sure.
If I all right. So how do we burn NuBits? I mean, if I hold NuBits, like let's say I was a very successful dark market drug reseller. And I put all my money into NuBits, and I mean, do you guys burn my NuBits? Or how do you get rid of the NuBits?
Basically, there is there's a command inside the client in which you can specify, a huge fee, transaction fee. So that would be, let's say that you want to burn 1 million NuBits. Sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's say you want to burn 1 million NuBits. You would I think I never done on myself, but I think it's you would just need to burn you specify 1 million as a transaction fee.
Okay, so in other words, if you wanted to burn 1 NuBits, you can say 1 NuBits as a. Okay, but who decides on that burn? Do the new shareholders?
Yeah, you can do that on your own money if you want, but it's totally, of course, stupid. But yeah, if it's the decision taken by the shareholders, then someone will be elected to do that, and he will do that, and he will just show the result of the transaction to prove that he or she has done the thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just a question: to basically burn NuBits and get new shares instead.
Getting new shares instead of what? Sorry.
So let's say there's too many NuBits, right? So there's a reason to burn some NuBits effectively.
Sure,
right?
sure.
Is there a way to burn NuBits and then, because I mean, again, you said it would be stupid to do it with your own money, right? So let's say argument's
Sure.
like I had 1 million NuBits basically, and I thought, okay, well, maybe if the new shareholders issue me, you know, like $1.1 million worth of new shares, that sounds like a deal to me. I'll take that risk and I'll burn my million NuBits. Is there such a mechanism in place?
Yeah, you can do that. Like if you can just like handle the command inside the RPC commands inside the client.
Okay. Okay, but explain that mechanism to me. How would we go about shifting that?
Okay, so let's say that. I mean, I can give you an example of burning. You know,
Okay.
if you can help. Let's say that the shareholders think that there is too many NuBits in circulation, so they will basically, for example, they can issue new shares on the market, and then I mean, one elected custodian will do that, right? So, and then he basically with the proceeds, he would get some proceeds in let's say in BTC, in Bitcoin, right? And then he would go to the market and buy NuBits from with this BTC, and get the NuBits and burn them.
Okay, and then he'd be compensated with new shares.
Not necessarily. I mean, he can be paid by with new shares or NuBits or anything else, I think. But yes, new shares is one possibility. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the next question I have basically is that, as I understand, though, this community sort of like started off from the Peercoin community, right? So
Yes.
it's obviously Peercoin's major innovation, although it's a very contentious topic, it seems, is that they use proof of stake instead of proof of work. So effectively, what happens is that the economic majority, sign off on blocks, and that is effectively how we reach consensus. Is whenever the majority of the money basically says that this is the order in which transactions happen. Right. So my question is why proof of stake? Why does the new shareholders why does the system simply prefer proof of stake to say proof of work?
Sure, good question. Yeah, I mean, I'm not the inventor of new shares, of course, but it's actually Jordan Lee. He decided to fork that to fork Peercoin to create a template called PeerShares.
Okay.
PeerShares is basically a template to create any type of, to create a DAC, decentralized autonomous corporation, in which the stake that you can find in Peercoin, right, would be equivalent to owning shares, in a company or a corporations. And by holding this stake, you will be able to mint, and when you mint, you get some rewards in those shares, right? So, and there's also in PeerShares, he implemented a mechanism to distribute dividends, right?
Okay.
And NuBits, new shares, let's say, NuBits, is a fork of PeerShares, the first fork, or the first application, if you want.
Okay. So in other words, new shares is effectively a mechanism, or not new shares. PeerShares is a mechanism by which you can build a distributed autonomous organization. Have the general like Bitcoin blockchain mechanisms and reach consensus with that over like proof of stake. All right.
Sure.
All right. Can we understand if it's not maybe like your specific area of expertise, but what are your answers to the nothing at stake problem and the long range attack with proof of stake?
Yeah, I studied a little bit about that because obviously I'm interested in the security of the network as a shareholder and a daily contributor. But yes, I would. I'm very. Maybe I'm biased, but I'm very convinced by the argument by by Jordani about that. You know, first of all, he said that, you know, over the history of Peercon, like since it began in 2012, Peercon didn't and I mean didn't have any you know attacks, you know. So it's one. I think it's one proof of its solidity as a network. So that means that, you know, there is no enough incentive for an attacker to, you know, to basically use the same stake to mint on two separate chains at the same time, you know.
Okay.
But in order to, you know, to really you know settle, I mean, settle this problem, Jordan and the main developer, whose name is Sigmike, they basically implemented a double stake detection mechanism at the end of December 2014, I think, yeah. So that, you know, you will be punished if you're caught minting on two separate chain with the same stake. So now you don't have any incentive at all to use the same stake. So, you know, yeah.
All right, and the long range attack basically is
the long range attack is another problem, I think, and yeah, it's basically right now it's contained by some sort of how do you call that? You know, there is a mechanism to you know to check the state of the network on a regular basis. Let me see. It's like in Bitcoin. I think there's such mechanism, right? Can you hear me?
Sorry, just 1 second there. Hey, where is this guy? Okay. Where was I?
I think it's a checkpoint system.
Okay, so all right, so basically they checkpoint so they basically take the block header hash and they store that somewhere like on the Bitcoin blockchain, and then this was the valid block header as of X time. So if somebody tries a long range attack, they have to go very far back in time. Well, they can't. It doesn't really help if they go back in time, because there are known check marks on a proof of work system. Or for that in some trusted third-party repository.
Okay, so sorry, yeah, okay. I think I'm not very familiar with that, so I can't answer very, you know, accurately, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, as far as I understand, the you know, the check, but basically the bookmarking or the check marking thing is that what happens is, as the proof of stake system produces blocks, obviously the block has a header. That block header has a header hash. Header hash gets attached to the next block. Hence, we form the blockchain. So in a proof of stake system, what you can do occasionally is you basically take one of these things and either you make them part of your distributor of your client. You say that, listen, you know, blocks 1 million must have this specific hash, and then we mine from there. You know, and then as you release new versions, you update that thing. So that's sort of a centrally trusted way of solving the problem. The other way of doing it is you take that same hash and you post it onto. Sorry about that. It seems like every time I do one of these things, there's some strange bit of mechanics in the background. But then you basically take that header hash and you can post that to Bitcoin and basically like piggyback on top of its security.
Sure.
You know what, Pascal? I think let's do the following quickly. Like, let's take a quick 5-minute break, if you don't mind.
Sure. Okay.
We can go make coffees and do 1 or 2 other things, and we'll be right back. Okay, and then
okay, thank you.
We can kick off with how dividends are paid. I'm very interested in how do you guys pay out dividends. All right, chat you guys. Cheers, man.